Welcome, everybody, to the Superhumanistic Podcast, where we talk about all things health, wellness, and longevity. Thank you for joining us today. We are your hosts. I'm David.
I'm Jessica.
Make sure that you follow Superhumanistic on YouTube. Follow this podcast so you never miss another episode. And check us out on Instagram as well. And make sure that you share this podcast with someone that is also on a health journey. Last week, we talked about memory and basically how your nutrition, the type of exercises that you do, and really just how you treat your body is going to lead to better memory as you age. It's not always just chance that you start to lose your memory. So this week, we are going to be diving into just some expert advice from dietitians. So there's a lot of rumors out there and things like that. So we're going to be talking about nutrition lies that won't die. So the 5 worst pieces of advice that dietitians keep hearing. So whenever you're on the internet for more than 5 minutes, you've probably been told at least one of the following things.
Right. So like fruit replaces candy, right? Fruit basically is our candy. Gluten-free is always healthier. Cheat days are necessary. White foods are actually bad for us. And drink water so that when we think we're hungry, it will trick our hunger.
And today we're basically going to be busting those myths. We're going to be providing information from registered dietitians that list the worst advice they constantly hear when it comes to food and dietary tips.
Yeah, it's not that those tips are necessarily wrong. It's just kind of wrecking our metabolism, our mindset, and our relationship with food.
Yeah, we're going to break that spell today because you can do everything right and still feel like you're failing because you're following the rules that were never meant to work long term.
So we have research and are following the dietitians' research that they've also done to list the 5 worst pieces of nutrition advice that dietitians have heard, and adding some extra research to put these tips in a more healthy and actionable way.
All right, well, let's jump into myth number 1 that we're going to bust today. So drink water when you're hungry to trick your body and help you lose weight.
Yeah, so I've definitely heard this one and have tried to practice this one myself, but my hunger is still there. So it's like, is this really working?
Yeah, hydration's great for you. We've talked about that many times on this podcast. It's super important to get enough water. We've done some episodes on that in the past. But when it comes to hunger, it's not really playing a trick on your body or anything like that. It's giving you some sort of signal.
Yeah, so our body definitely is signaling that we're hungry, but I do understand, and dietitians also have said, that our body, when we are dehydrated, can have those same sort of signals. So I've always tried to at least try to drink some water before, but if I'm still hungry, I'll go and grab a snack, because the water that we're drinking doesn't actually give us those nutrients, right? It's literally no nutrients unless you're putting a powder in there. So we're really trying to silence that hunger, but that can actually backfire.
All right, what you're trying to really do there is the better rule of thumb is hydrate your body, but also feed it something. But you want it to be real, a whole food, something that actually has nutrients and your body can actually utilize for energy and muscle building. So a good tip there is protein and fiber. That's going to be your superhumanistic fix when it comes to this myth number 1. So if you're hungry, drink that water. That's super important to hydrate. But also ask yourself, how are you feeling? What does your body need? Could that be something like Greek yogurt with a little bit of berries, or perhaps an apple with some peanut butter, some boiled eggs, cottage cheese, or maybe tuna or salmon, or also sardines is a good option as well. So again, a small snack, something that's healthy and that your body can actually use as fuel.
Yeah, so I always have started with drinking that glass of water first, waiting about 30-ish minutes and seeing if my body still has that hunger signal. That's when I'll go and grab one of those snacks. Getting into myth number 2, those scheduled cheat days. Now, everyone, I can say, has heard about, oh, I've been doing so good in the gym this week. I've been eating all the right foods, so I deserve to have this cheat day. So we schedule them, right? We schedule those cheat days into our week.
And that just really messes with you psychologically in the long term.
So dietitians call out that cheat days usually mean that your plan is too restrictive and it doesn't teach that moderation and good versus bad sort of feel.
Yeah, the science world is catching up with that. Recently reviewed a 2025 study that described cheat meals as unrestricted eating with no target in mind. So that can create some different psychological outcomes for you than that planned diet when it comes to those breaks and things like that.
Yeah, so like cheat days are actually turn food into the rule breaking event, right? If I eat only chicken and rice all week and I have my broccoli, like I'm getting everything that I need that I know is good for my body, but it's restrictive and honestly, taste buds need more than just bland food. So then I feel like less guilty when I'm having those cakes and fudge and different sort of snacks on my cheat day. So it makes it harder then coming back to then be able to follow that better diet. So we're going to replace our cheat days with planned enjoyment. So eat balanced meals throughout the week. Intentionally include those foods that you're craving. So a little bit of chocolate here and there. Something sweet, maybe something salty. Maybe it's some chips or popcorn.
Slice of pizza, half a donut.
Yes, I guess, if that's what you're craving, but do it in moderation, right? So 80-20 isn't weakness. It's actually, we're able to sustain then the healthier diet. So everything in moderation, that's really what our bodies are craving and what's going to be sustainable for us.
Yeah, the goal here isn't what's called a diet. It's the real flex is eating like a normal person, a normal healthy person forever, for long term, and really just making it a lifestyle basically. So you just want to make sure that you are following that rule of 80-20 so that way you're able to enjoy the foods that you crave, but for the most part eat a healthy, well-balanced diet. And you're just going to do that every day of your life. It doesn't have to be for a couple of weeks or for a cheat day or for a week and then leading into a cheat weekend or something like that. It's just something that you do every day. So next we are going to jump into myth number 3, which is that gluten-free and dairy-free foods are always healthier.
Yeah, so this one's mainstream and has become more mainstream very quickly.
Yeah, but dietitians actually are saying that unless you have a medical reason when it comes to having to not incorporate those foods into your diet, celiac disease is one thing that comes to mind, a gluten sensitivity, also being lactose intolerant. Or if you're vegan, they're saying there's really no universal need to kind of cut out those foods.
And research actually warns that gluten-free products are lower in fiber and certain vitamins and minerals compared to those wheat-based equivalents. So we're really, again, being restricted to our bodies. We're not getting what we need when we take out like gluten for reasons that aren't necessary. So the better question is to ask ourselves is, do I feel better because I removed the gluten or because I removed those ultra processed foods?
Yeah, I think that often is something that plays a little bit of a trick on your mind there because you're obviously not eating cookies and a donut or something like that because of the fact you're trying to cut out that gluten. So you have to really analyze it there. And is it really because I cut out the gluten, or is it because you cut out the cookies and the fast food or something like that? So super important to think about that. And again, if there's no medical reason when it comes to cutting out dairy products or things with gluten, then you should maybe try to reincorporate those into your diet in a healthier whole foods type of way.
Yeah, so that brings us now to myth number 4, avoiding fruit because it's too high in sugar. So I have heard this personally. People have said, oh, you're eating like the watermelon, you're eating strawberries. This is weird because it has so much sugar in it. So they always have told me, or I've heard, that we should avoid eating fruit because it's too high in sugar.
Yeah, this is one of the most damaging myths out there because there's so many protective qualities that fruits can provide to you. So it's super important to incorporate those into your diet.
Dietitians actually remind us too that fruit, it has that natural sugar, and it's bundled with a bunch of fiber too. So remember, we want more fiber. It has water in it, vitamins, antioxidants, all the things our bodies actually are needing.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to these studies that are out there right now in dietitian expertise, they're basically showing that higher fruit and vegetable intake is associated with lower mortality. So that's super important for those of us that want to continue living longer and have that longevity. So the benefits usually typically level off around 5 servings per day. So it's good to get a nice combination of fruits and vegetables there. 5 servings per day is kind of that threshold there of where the benefits start to taper off because our bodies can only process so much nutrients at a certain time. So the superhumanistic fix here is to stop fearing those fruits and really just start aiming for a variety of things. So you're looking at berries, apples, oranges, bananas, kiwis. And then also a good thing to do is incorporate that fruit with some protein. So that could be eat the fruit with some Greek yogurt, eat the fruit with some nuts, or eat the fruit with something like that. So that's going to be really good for you as well. I always recommend a smoothie. That's a great way to get your fruit and incorporate some proteins because you're putting a variety of fruit in there, along with perhaps some spinach, milk, yogurt, and other things. So you're getting all that protein in as well.
Yeah, so it's not that we don't want fruit and no sugar. We just need to have a little bit of the less added sugar. So this brings us to myth number 5, which is to avoid all white foods. White bread, think of white flour. Definitely have heard this growing up too. I've seen this in magazines before, but all sorts of white foods are really bad for us.
Yeah, but actually, dietitians do point out there's plenty of white foods that are actually nutrient rich, such as cauliflower, potatoes, bananas, garlic, mushrooms, and many more.
Potatoes specifically get that bully. Poor potatoes. They actually, they're a veggie, I would say, right? They grow from the ground. So they actually do provide us with some key nutrients like potassium, vitamin C. Of course, depending on how we prepare our potatoes. If you're adding a bunch of salt and pepper, like that's when it's like, okay, that's the bad thing. But honestly, when I eat potatoes, I get pretty full, which is a good thing because it is a full that is sustained throughout my whole day. So the superhumanistic fix here is to not judge our food by the color. Instead, we need to start judging the food by how it's processed and how we're preparing or how it is prepared for us. So baked potatoes, really good. Fries every day, not so good. Cauliflower, onions, garlic, always good.
All right, so that brings us to the challenge for this week, the Superhumanistic Challenge. Here we go with the 5-day Nutrition Truth Challenge. So here's your challenge: 5 days, 5 myths, 5 upgrades. So day 1, the hunger truth. So when you're hungry, don't water trick. Again, eat that protein and that fiber once you kind of feel that coming on each day.
Day 2, no cheat language. So we're not doing cheat days anymore. Plan actually one enjoyment item on purpose, guilt-free, daily.
All right. Day 3, gluten, dairy reality check. So that's going back to eating one whole grain or dairy serving if you tolerate it, and then notice how your body feels.
Day 4, we're going to have a fruit upgrade. So plan having some sort of serving of fruit. It can be whatever you want. Maybe it's multiple different fruits for that serving, but add one serving of fruit with a protein sharing.
All right. And last one, day 5, white food redemption. So try to incorporate some of those white foods into your diet that are nutrient rich, such as mushrooms, cauliflower, bananas, onions, and potatoes.
And now I'm hungry. That's really it for today.
All right. Well, most people don't need more discipline. They need fewer fake rules. So the loudest nutrition advice usually sounds confident. That's not always correct. So do this 5-day nutrition chew challenge and let us know what changed. Make sure you drop a comment on our YouTube channel, leave us a comment and review on our podcast, or check us out on Instagram. And until next time, stay superhumanistic.
Bye.